The void's embrace. The warning klaxons aboard Outpost Helios pierced through Nathan Hayes' sleep like shattered glass. His eyes snapped open as red emergency lights painted his quarters in crimson shadows. 14 years of engineering work on deep space stations had taught him one thing: when systems failed this far from Earth, death wasn't far behind. Critical breach detected in fusion core containment. Emergency protocols initiated. All personnel proceed to evacuation stations. The AI's calm voice contrasted sharply with the chaos unfolding around him. Nathan grabbed his emergency kit and ran into the corridor. The station's superstructure groaned under stress he couldn't see but could feel in his bones. Other crew members rushed past him, their faces masks of barely contained panic. But Nathan turned against the flow, heading deeper into the station's heart. "Hayes, what are you doing?" Station Commander Reeves' voice crackled through his calm. "Engineering section is losing pressure. Get to the escape pods. Someone has to stabilize the core, or this whole sector goes up," Nathan replied, his breath coming in short bursts as he ran. "I can buy us time." The commander's curse was lost in static as Nathan reached the engineering deck. Emergency bulkheads were already sealing, threatening to trap him. He rolled under one just before it slammed shut, sealing him in with the dying heart of Outpost Helios. The fusion core chamber was a nightmare of flashing warnings and failing systems. Plasma containment was failing, the magnetic bottles that held the station's lifeblood were collapsing one by one. Nathan's fingers flew across control panels, rerouting power, bypassing failed systems, trying to hold together a reactor that wanted to tear itself apart. Come on, he muttered, sweat beading on his forehead despite the rapidly cooling air. The temperature was dropping as life support failed, but the core was burning hotter. He had minutes, maybe less. A violent shudder ran through the station. Warning lights shifted from red to purple, containment was beyond critical. Nathan knew he had failed. Now he had to run. He sprinted back the way he came, but the route to the escape pods was blocked by collapsed corridors and sealed bulkheads. The only path left was towards the maintenance airlocks. He sealed his jacket, activated its emergency oxygen supply, and made a choice that felt like suicide. The airlock cycled open to the void of space. Nathan took a deep breath, said a quick prayer, and pushed off into nothingness. The explosion behind him came seconds later, the force throwing him into a tumbling spin. Outpost Helios, his home for the past 3 years, became a new star in the infinite night. Time lost meaning as he drifted. The emergency oxygen would last 6 hours, the suit's heating maybe 4. Nathan tried to control his breathing, to stay calm, to think. But in the vast emptiness of space, human ingenuity felt very small indeed. His calm was dead, the explosion having fried its circuits. Navigation was offline. He was alone in the most absolute sense of the word, surrounded by infinite darkness punctuated by distant, uncaring stars. As his body temperature slowly dropped and his mind began to drift, Nathan thought he saw something moving against the star field. A shape too geometric to be natural, too graceful to be human. His oxygen-deprived brain registered a soft purple glow before consciousness began to slip away. The last thing Nathan felt was a gentle force enveloping him, pulling him towards what looked like an opening in space itself. As darkness took him, he wondered if this was death or salvation, and which would be more merciful. The dream that followed was filled with strange voices speaking in musical tones, the sensation of floating in warm liquid, and the touch of hands that felt both gentle and alien. When consciousness finally returned, Nathan found himself staring at a ceiling that seemed to be made of flowing crystal, refracting light in patterns that defied Earth physics. He tried to sit up and found his body responding sluggishly, as if he'd been asleep for days. The room around him was both beautiful and strange, organic curves blended with technological elements he couldn't begin to understand. The air carried a sweet scent he'd never encountered before, and gravity felt slightly lighter than Earth standard. "The human awakens," a melodic voice said from somewhere behind him. Nathan turned to see a figure that challenged his understanding of reality. She, for the being seemed feminine, stood nearly 7 feet tall, with skin that shimmered like opal and hair that moved as if suspended in water. Her eyes were completely silver, with no pupils, yet he could feel her studying him intently. "I am Healer Naira," she said in perfect English, though her mouth movements didn't quite match the words. "You are aboard the Thalarian vessel Starweaver. We found you amid the debris of your station." Nathan's throat felt dry. "How? How long?" "3 of your Earth days have passed since we brought you aboard," Naira replied. "Your body required significant healing. The void had begun to claim you." Before Nathan could respond, the chamber's entrance spiraled open like an organic iris. 2 figures entered. One was clearly a warrior, tall and muscular with armor that seemed to flow like liquid metal. The other made Nathan's breath catch in his throat. She could only be their queen. Celestial Court. The queen of the Thalarians moved like light through water, each step precise yet fluid. Her skin held a subtle luminescence that made her seem to glow from within, and her eyes were the color of distant nebulae. The crown she wore wasn't metal but seemed to be made of pure energy, shifting and flowing around her head in intricate patterns. "I am Lysandra, sovereign of the Thalarian Concordat," she said, her voice carrying both warmth and authority. "You show remarkable resilience, Nathan Hayes of Earth. Few survive exposure to the void as long as you did." Nathan tried to stand, but his legs weren't ready. Healer Naira stepped forward to steady him, her touch surprisingly warm. "Your Majesty," he managed, though he had no idea if that was the proper form of address. "Thank you for saving my life." The warrior beside Lysandra shifted, her liquid metal armor rippling. "My queen, we should not trust so quickly." The human station exploded under suspicious circumstances. The Crixians could have agents anywhere. "Peace, Commander Vena," Lysandra raised a hand. "I sense no deception in him." She turned back to Nathan. "Though perhaps you could explain what happened to your station?" Nathan nodded, gathering his thoughts. "Fusion core containment failure. I tried to stabilize it, but the damage was too severe. Something had weakened the magnetic bottles, but I didn't have time to figure out what before it went critical." Vena's eyes narrowed. "Sabotage?" "Possible," Nathan admitted. "The systems were well maintained. A cascade failure like that shouldn't have happened naturally." Lysandra moved closer, studying him with those nebula eyes. "You stayed behind to attempt repairs while others fled. Why risk your life?" "Because without the station, that whole sector loses its early warning system against solar flares and meteoroids. 3 colonies depend on those warnings. I had to try." A small smile touched Lysandra's lips. "Responsibility to others, even at great personal risk. Perhaps there is more to humans than the Crixians would have us believe." Nathan's brow furrowed. "The Crixians? Who are they?" The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Vena's armor darkened like storm clouds, and even Healer Naira's gentle expression hardened. Lysandra turned to look out a window that seemed to open into space itself, though Nathan saw no glass or barrier. "The Crixians are the reason we travel in secret, hiding in the shadows between stars," she said softly. "They are conquerors who believe themselves the only race worthy of civilization. All others, they say, are meant to serve or perish." "They destroyed our homeworld," Vena added, her voice tight with controlled rage. "Those they didn't kill were enslaved. We who escaped are all that remains of free Thalarian society." Nathan felt a chill run down his spine. "And they're near Earth?" "Closer than your people know," Lysandra confirmed. "They move slowly, methodically. They infiltrate before they invade, weaken before they strike. Your station's destruction fits their pattern. The implications hit Nathan like a physical blow. If the Crixians had sabotaged Outpost Helios, Earth's defenses were already compromised. Millions could die, just like the Thalarians. There must be something we can do, he said. Some way to warn Earth, to prepare defenses. Vena laughed, but there was no humor in it. Your weapons are primitive compared to theirs. Your ships would be dust before they reached firing range. But we have something they don't expect, Lysandra said thoughtfully. We have you, Nathan Hayes. Me? I'm just an engineer. An engineer who nearly prevented a sabotaged fusion core from exploding. Who stayed behind to protect others. Who thinks not of himself but of his people. Lysandra turned back to him, her crown flickering with increased intensity. The Crixians believe humans are technologically inferior, incapable of adaptation. They do not expect innovation. Understanding began to dawn in Nathan's mind. You want me to help you fight them? I want you to help us save both our peoples, Lysandra corrected. But first, you must prove yourself to my council. There are those who share Vena's caution about trusting outsiders. Vena nodded grimly. The trial begins tomorrow. Rest well, human. You'll need your strength. As they left, healer Naira helped Nathan lie back down. The Queen sees something in you, she said softly. I hope, for all our sakes, she is right. Nathan stared at the crystalline ceiling, his mind racing. He had woken up in the middle of an interstellar war, with the fate of humanity potentially hanging in the balance. More than that, he had found survivors of a tragedy that could soon befall Earth. The question was, could one human engineer really make a difference against an empire that destroyed entire civilizations? As sleep began to take him again, Nathan remembered something his father used to say, the greatest innovations come from the deepest desperation. Tomorrow, he would begin to learn just how desperate things truly were. Trial by stars. The Thalarian Council chamber took Nathan's breath away. The vast circular room seemed to float in space itself, with walls that were completely transparent yet somehow held in the atmosphere. Dozens of council members sat in tiered rings that rose toward the ceiling, their ceremonial robes shimmering with patterns of light that moved like living things. Queen Lysandra sat at the chamber's heart, her energy crown casting gentle auroras across the room. Commander Vena stood at her right hand, while an elderly Thalarian with deep blue skin and silver markings presided over the proceedings. Nathan Hayes of Earth, the elder spoke, his voice resonating with age and authority. You stand before the Council of Stars. I am First Speaker Thalos. You claim to possess knowledge that could aid our fight against the Crixians. Prove your worth. Nathan stepped forward, trying to hide his nervousness. With respect, First Speaker, I'd rather show than tell. May I access your engineering systems? Murmurs rippled through the council. Thalos frowned. You ask for access to sensitive technology? I ask for a chance to demonstrate what humans can do, Nathan replied. Show me your most damaged ship, your most difficult repair. Let me prove myself with actions. Lysandra leaned forward, interest sparking in her nebula eyes. The Stormweaver. It was nearly destroyed in our last encounter with the Crixians. None of our engineers have been able to restore its main drive. My queen, Vena protested, the Stormweaver's systems are highly classified. And useless while broken, Lysandra cut her off. Let the human try. Minutes later, Nathan stood in the Stormweaver's engine room, surrounded by technology that made Earth's most advanced ships look primitive. But underneath the alien aesthetics, he could see familiar principles at work. Energy was energy, thrust was thrust, and damage followed universal laws. The quantum core is completely misaligned, one of the Thalarian engineers explained. The containment field harmonics are destabilized beyond our ability to correct. Nathan studied the holographic diagnostics, his mind already racing ahead to solutions. Your quantum core works on harmonic resonance, right? Like a musical instrument playing pure energy? The engineer blinked in surprise. That is a simplified but accurate analogy. Then we're not looking at the problem the right way, Nathan said, fingers flying across the alien controls as he grew more comfortable with their logic. You're trying to force the harmonics back into alignment, but what if we instead? He worked for hours, explaining his thoughts as he went. The Thalarian engineers moved from skepticism to interest to excitement as they began to understand his approach. Instead of fighting the damaged systems, Nathan showed them how to adapt, to find new harmonics that worked with the damage rather than against it. It's like music, he explained. When a string breaks on an instrument, you don't just keep trying to play the same note. You adapt, find a new arrangement that works with what you have. The quantum core hummed to life, its energy signature different from before but stable. The Stormweaver's systems began powering up one by one, restored through unconventional but effective methods. Impossible, whispered one of the engineers. The harmonics are completely different, but they're working better than before. Back in the council chamber, first speaker Thales leaned forward. You have restored a ship we thought lost, using methods we never considered. How did you know they would work? I didn't, Nathan admitted. But humans have learned to improvise, to look at problems from new angles. When you don't have advanced technology, you learn to be creative with what you have. And this creativity, Lysandra added, this ability to find unusual solutions, you believe it could help us against the Kryxians? Nathan nodded. They expect you to fight in certain ways, use technology in predictable patterns. But humans, we're good at being unpredictable. We find ways to win even when we're outmatched. You speak with confidence, Venna observed, yet your people don't even know the Kryxians exist. No, Nathan agreed, but we've fought among ourselves enough to learn some hard lessons. Sometimes the most advanced army can be defeated by simple innovations they never saw coming. The council chambers erupted in discussion. Nathan could see the divide forming. Some were excited by the possibilities he represented, others still wary of trusting an outsider with their survival. Lysandra raised her hand, silencing the chamber. You have proven your technical skills, Nathan Hayes. But the Kryxians are more than a technical problem. They are ruthless, adaptable themselves. Are you prepared for what fighting them truly means? Nathan met her gaze steadily. The Kryxians destroyed your world. Now they're targeting mine. I'm not just prepared to fight them, I have to. For Earth, and for what's left of Thalaria. A small smile touched Lysandra's lips. Then let us see what human ingenuity, combined with Thalarian technology, can achieve. She stood, her crown flaring bright. The Council of Stars accepts Nathan Hayes as an ally in our war against the Kryxian Empire. Venna stepped forward, her liquid metal armor rippling. If we're going to war, he needs to understand our enemy. Show him the archives. Let him see what we're truly facing. Nathan felt a chill run down his spine. He had passed the trial, but somehow he knew the real challenges were just beginning. As he followed Venna out of the council chamber, his mind was already racing with ideas, plans, possibilities. The war for Earth's future was about to begin, and humanity didn't even know it yet. Battle plans. The Thalarian War archives were a chamber of horrors. Holographic displays showed the fall of their homeworld in devastating detail, massive Kryxian warships descending from the sky, their weapons cutting through planetary defenses like paper. Nathan watched cities burn, saw millions flee only to be captured by strange energy nets that covered entire continents. The invasion lasted 3 days, Venna said quietly. 3 days to end a civilization that had existed for 10,000 years. Nathan studied the Kryxian ships, his engineer's mind analyzing their design even as his heart ached for the Thalarians' loss. The vessels were enormous, shaped like crystalline arrowheads with multiple layers of energy shields. Their weapons were primarily beam-based, but with an unusual modulation that let them pierce most defensive systems. "They're overconfident," he muttered, rewinding one particular battle sequence. "Look here, their ships are powerful, but they're not very maneuverable. They rely on brute force because it's always worked for them." Lysandra entered the archive chamber, her presence somehow making the horrific images seem less overwhelming. "You see weakness where we saw only strength?" "I see patterns," Nathan replied. "The Crixians have superior technology, but they use it in predictable ways. They expect their enemies to either match their firepower or run. They're not prepared for alternatives." He pointed to another hologram, showing a Crixian fleet in formation. "Their ships are designed for frontal assault. The shield coverage at the rear is weaker. They don't expect anyone to get behind them because their sensors have such long range." "The Stormweaver's repairs," Venna said suddenly. "The new harmonic signature you created, would their sensors recognize it?" Nathan smiled. "Probably not. And that's just the beginning. Your quantum cores are incredibly advanced, but you're only using them in traditional ways. What if we tried something completely different?" Over the next several hours, Nathan outlined his plan. The remaining Thalarian fleet would be modified using his new harmonic techniques, making them virtually invisible to Crixian sensors. But that was just the first step. "We can't match their firepower," he explained, "so we don't try. Instead, we turn their own energy against them." He brought up a simulation showing his proposed modifications. "Their shield modulators work on predictable frequencies. If we tune our quantum cores to resonate at exactly the right harmonic, the feedback would cascade through their entire fleet," one of the Thalarian engineers finished, eyes wide with understanding. "Their own shields would become a weapon against them. But we would need to get very close," Venna pointed out. "Close enough for their secondary sensors to detect us, even with the harmonic masking." Nathan nodded. "That's where we use their expectations against them. They think they know Thalarian tactics, you always hit hard from long range. So when our first ships appear at long range, they'll focus their attention forward," Lysandra said, never suspecting the real threat will come from behind. "Exactly. We show them what they expect to see, while the Stormweaver and our other modified ships slip through their blind spots. Once we're in position, we trigger the resonance cascade. Their shields will overload, their systems will crash, and they'll be vulnerable to conventional attacks." The chamber fell silent as the Thalarians considered his plan. It was risky, unconventional, and required perfect timing. But it also offered something they hadn't had in a long time: hope. "There's something else," Nathan added quietly. "The Crixians are coming for Earth next. If we can capture one of their ships intact, we can prove to Earth's governments that the threat is real. Give humanity time to prepare." Lysandra studied him for a long moment. "You would risk everything not just to defeat them, but to warn your people? Earth needs to know what's coming. And..." He hesitated, then continued, "Maybe this is a chance for both our peoples. Humans and Thalarians, working together. We could be stronger together than either of us alone." A small smile touched Lysandra's lips. "Perhaps this is why you were meant to survive, Nathan Hayes. To bridge our worlds before darkness falls." Venna stepped forward, her armor shifting from its usual silver to a deep, determined blue. "The plan is bold, unconventional, and our best chance. I will begin preparing the fleet immediately." As the others left to make preparations, Lysandra lingered. "There is no guarantee of success. The risks are enormous." "Everything worth doing has risks," Nathan replied. "But sitting back and waiting for the Crixians to kill us all? That's not an option." "No," she agreed softly, "it is not." She turned to leave, then paused. Rest while you can, Nathan. Tomorrow, we go to war. Nathan stayed in the archive chamber a while longer, studying the Crixian ships, refining his plans. Earth's fate, and the survival of the last free Thalarians, would depend on human ingenuity meeting alien technology in ways neither side had imagined possible. The question was, would it be enough? Victory's price. The Thalarian fleet hung silent in the void, their modified quantum cores pulsing with new harmonics that made them nearly invisible to conventional sensors. Nathan stood on the Stormweaver's bridge, watching the tactical display as dozens of Crixian warships emerged from hyperspace. Their crystalline hulls gleamed with malevolent purpose, weapons already charging. They're heading for the Sol system, Venna reported, her armor rippling with tension. Earth will be defenseless. Not if we stop them here, Nathan replied. He turned to Lysandra, who stood serene despite the looming battle. All ships are in position. Ready when you are, Your Majesty. Lysandra nodded. Begin Operation Thunderfall. The first phase of Nathan's plan sprang into action. A small group of unmodified Thalarian ships appeared at long range, catching the Crixians' attention. The massive enemy fleet turned ponderously, their forward batteries charging with enough power to vaporize small moons. They're responding exactly as predicted, Venna observed. All forward shields at maximum. Nathan watched the tactical display intently. Wait for it, wait. The Crixian fleet moved further into position, their rear defenses weakening as they diverted power forward. Now! The Stormweaver and 5 other modified ships decloaked directly behind the Crixian fleet. Their quantum cores screamed as they generated the precise harmonic frequency Nathan had calculated. The effect was immediate and devastating. The Crixian shields began to vibrate, their energy patterns disrupted by the resonance cascade. Ship after ship lost power as their own defensive systems turned against them. Confusion spread through their ranks as commands failed to reach their destinations. All ships, attack pattern Haze Alpha. Venna commanded. The Thalarian fleet struck from multiple vectors, their weapons finding weak points that had never existed before. Crixian vessels began to fall, their once impenetrable defenses now useless. But the enemy was far from beaten. A massive Crixian dreadnought, twice the size of its companions, managed to partially adapt to the resonance attack. Its weapons locked onto the Stormweaver, preparing to fire. Evasive action. Nathan shouted, but he knew they wouldn't be fast enough. At the last second, another ship intercepted the blast, Lysandra's personal vessel, the Starweaver. My queen! Venna's cry echoed across the bridge as the Starweaver's shields flared brilliant white. The ship survived, but barely, its systems critically damaged. Lysandra's voice came through damaged comm channels. Continue the attack. We cannot let them reach Earth. Nathan's mind raced. The plan was working, but not fast enough. The Crixians were already beginning to adapt, their technological superiority allowing them to compensate for the resonance attack. They needed something more, something unexpected. The quantum cores, he muttered, then louder, Venna. If we overload our quantum cores all at once, right next to their command ship. It would destroy us as well, she replied grimly. No, Nathan said, pointing to a nearby asteroid field. Not if we time it right. Their adapting shields will actually contain most of the blast and reflect it back on their own fleet. We just need to get close enough. Lysandra's voice crackled through again. I will lead the attack. No, Nathan countered. The Starweaver's too damaged. The Stormweaver is the only ship that can get close enough now. He turned to Venna. Get your queen to safety. Earth needs to know about this alliance, they'll listen to her. Understanding dawned in Venna's silver eyes. You mean to sacrifice yourself? Nathan managed a smile. Humans are good at that too, when it matters enough. He looked at the tactical display, where Earth's solar system waited just a few light-years away. Just make sure this counts. Before anyone could stop him, Nathan initiated the Stormweaver's maximum thrust. The ship leaped forward, diving through gaps in the Crixian formation. Enemy fire sparked against their failing shields as they closed the distance to the massive command ship. Nathan, Lyssandra's voice was soft. There may be no way back from this. Sometimes the best way forward is through, he replied, remembering his father's words. Take care of Earth. Show them a better way than the Crixians. The Stormweaver's quantum core began to overload, its harmonics building to impossible levels. The Crixian command ship loomed ahead, its adapted shields ironically about to become its doom. Nathan closed his eyes as energy began to flood the bridge. The explosion was spectacular. The Crixian command ship's shields contained and reflected the quantum detonation, creating a chain reaction that rippled through their entire fleet. When the light faded, the mighty Crixian armada was reduced to scattered debris. But in the last moment before the Stormweaver's destruction, something extraordinary happened. The quantum energies, instead of vaporizing the ship, created a brief dimensional rift. Nathan felt himself pulled through space itself, across a barrier no human was meant to cross. He awoke in a crystal chamber aboard the Star Weaver, surrounded by amazed Thalarian scientists. Lysandra stood nearby, her energy crown glowing with renewed vigor. How, he managed to ask. The quantum harmonics you created did more than destroy the Crixians, she explained. They opened doorways we never thought possible. You've given us more than victory, Nathan Hayes. You've given us a new future. As Nathan looked out at the stars, he saw not just the end of one battle, but the beginning of something greater. Humanity would face the stars knowing they weren't alone, and the Thalarians would rebuild knowing they had found new allies in their ancient quest. Sometimes, he reflected, the greatest victories come not from destroying your enemies, but from discovering new friends in the darkest of times. The end.